Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of OverBOTCH, where we talk about the Overwatch League. A couple of gents talking philosophic about the Overwatch League, end up talking a little bit more philosophic about all your favorite esports action. We just got off of the final weekend of Overwatch League Midseason Madness qualifiers, heading into the tournament, which begins less than a week from today. And was this? I don't want to overstate, but is this the definition of going out on a whimper more than a bang this weekend?
Depends
As far
on
as
which matches you followed more closely, because some of them were, well, they were clown fiestas, to say the least.
they were matches that happened. That's certainly what
There
you
were
could say.
certain maps that happened. I think we can agree on that.
Mm-hmm. I feel bad because, like, for the last, I didn't do it 2 weeks ago because I was like, all right, well, I'll do a different story. But for like the last 3 weeks, when I'm going to make like a show title or like a thumbnail for our YouTube video, etc., I always end up, I'm like, well, all right, C9 Central or C9 City or C9 Mayhem. And I'm like, because it keeps happening. And we saw more
Yeah.
examples of it this week, even from top teams. And it is a wild affair.
Yeah. It got to the point where, for those who saw it, Jaws, one of the casters, had that bit of cardboard ready to go.
Yeah,
think
like,
two of them
it was a joke. It was a meme because it had happened the week before. So like, hey, I'm gonna. But he actually needed to use it because there were so
Yeah,
many.
not for the
And
team he expected, though.
no kidding. And we will get into more of that later. But before we get into the league action, we should cover that just, I believe, yesterday, a
Yeah.
new patch went live into the live beta. Again, this is not the patch that the Overwatch League players are using. That gets delayed by a stage. So in theory, we will see. I don't know if we'll see this patch with the Moira change in the Summer Showdown, but we'll see the Junker Queen
So,
wherever this started, right?
yeah, I would assume that Jungle Queen is guaranteed to be in. The rest of it,
Yes.
it's whether or not this secondary patch will be the one
Right.
used. We don't
The
know that
mid
as of yet.
Yeah, like this
For all we know, they
mid-beta
could tweet about
patch.
it later, but we'll see.
Right. But we do know that, whatever you had at the beginning of beta 2 here, that will be in the league play. So that should include potentially, I don't know if they'll include Rio in the map rotation. That's up to them. That's a whole different category. But Junker Queen as the hero should be there. Some of the character tweaks, including like the Mercy change, in theory, would be in there as well. So, but yesterday, a new patch. We saw one of the biggest changes we saw was a brand new Moira ability.
Yeah.
Which is her necrotic orb, which we'll highlight here in a second with this video. So now Moira's orbs, the healing and damage orb, have two separate cooldowns.
Yeah, on the same control.
Yes, on the same control, but separate cooldowns. So now she's got a little bit of a nerf to her healing.
Yep.
And a little bit of a nerf to her fade. So because she got a pretty big buff to her damage orb, which is now known as necrotic orb, and it is not a bouncy, does random damage wherever it goes orb. It is a straight shot ability, and when whoever it hits, it negates 75% of their damage output for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And this is not a skill shot, to be fair. Like, it is a little bit, but it is an AoE. So as long as you get it within, I believe, 3 meters.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the notes now. It's refreshing my memory.
Yeah, it's got an explosion kind of radius. It's not like a sleep dart.
Yeah, fires a straight moving projectile that explodes in a 3-meter radius on impact of an enemy or environment.
Yeah.
Deals 40 impact damage and 10 explosion damage.
So it does do DPS damage, and then it does it enacts this ability that reduces 75% of damage output. And now, hey, Richard has joined us, has welcomed.
We found him.
I'm back, and I got hit by one of those Moira orbs.
Station.
It sucks. It sucks. It's a great Yeah, when you're because you know how the Zens are everywhere, just like hitting your head with the Zen balls and
yes, the Discord.
Yeah, so this shuts you down because you can't do the rolling wipeout. And I kept getting hit by Moira's using the orb and bugging out. It's a splash and exit. You can use it to enter as well too, but it's such a good counter dive tool. It's
Sure.
It drives me crazy when I run into people who are good at it, and I'll say it's actually a good change. It's a good change.
Okay.
I'm in. I'm totally down. And it also, like, did you notice like the little ticky thing? Like, you know, when it's like, you know, when you're zapping everybody with Moira.
Yeah.
It's like you could just aim down hallways, and it was too easy to wipe people out. Like on So it removes some of that like generic poke damage that you would be getting.
Yes.
As the Moira,
right?
You know, and it forces Moira's to be a little bit more conservative in play because it was getting a little bit silly. Like Moira was just like racking up and obliterating everybody.
I agree with that. The spam of just
the spam
going
damage.
Down the hallway.
At one point last year with the zombie comps, it was basically if you got coalesces first, you won. That was basically the best.
Well, and that's the other thing too, right? Because Moira's Cole is really good, and when you did the Cole, because you can't get stunned out of it, right? So everybody does this. You start the push, everyone turns, right? So the tank goes in, and all you had to do was throw a damage orb and pull the Cole, and you'd wipe everybody out.
Yeah, or a healing orb, depending on the situation.
Yeah, but the thing is, Moira could just wipe people out super easily, so it was always a challenge there. Honestly, it's actually pretty good. I'm just curious though too. I think a lot of this is to make up space for whoever, because there's 2 new support heroes coming, right? Isn't that what they said in the game?
Well, eventually, yeah. The after, so we know there will be a new support hero in the next beta/launch or whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll have one of each at launch in October. After that will be a tank hero, and then I think
another tank.
Yes, that's the one in December. It will be a tank hero, and then after that, I believe it's 2 supports in a row.
Okay. Yeah.
So getting back to the ability, so I actually played a bit of Moira earlier. It's like because support queues are basically next to nothing at the minute. So I played a bit of Moira, and I've got to say, I like the idea of the ability, but at the same time, it's a little bit overtuned, in my opinion. So for me, I'm not sure if you, Joby, would agree with this. I don't like the idea that they're separate cooldowns. It's like I should, as a Moira player, I would, and this is coming from someone who plays a little bit, is that imagine if that was on a shared cooldown. It's like both things were on, say, a 10-second cooldown. So you had to choose between the healing orb or the necrotic orb.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good first step. Secondly, the damage mitigation, I'd say nerf to about 40%. Then that's like a middle ground. Like the offensive team can still do work, while the defensive team gets some of the benefit. That I think is where it should cap. But realistically, the shared cooldown is my biggest problem with it, because you should have to choose between the two, in my opinion.
I can see that.
Yeah,
so
I get why they did it though, because Moira realistically is the only support that doesn't have any form of utility. It's either heal or damage. Whereas you look at Baptiste with the immortality field. Mercy can damage boost. Lucio can speed boost, and obviously Brig has her shield and things like that. Moira's the only one who doesn't have that sort of utility. So I get why they did it, but it does need fine tuning.
It feels very much like, new ability. Let's change everything. It's definitely in that spot right now. And again, what's interesting is, right, it's going to increase time to kills. People will have to back out a little bit from being super aggressive, because right now it's like you've got teams that are just crashing into each other. Like you are going in full. A friend of mine who was one of the first folks I met in the scene, Pat, helped me start the Venoms. He was joking. He goes, Rich, this game is perfect for you now, because the only way you can play Brig or Zen is the way you play them, which is that you just run in flailing like a maniac. Like you have to be really, really aggressive. So it works in your favor. And what's nice though is that this does slow things down a touch, right? So you'll see that people kind of have to beg off a little bit, when they come in, they go, oh, no. So you will get punished if you don't sync, and you have to kill her first. So it's forcing priorities into the game structure, like a little, because again, and we already see this, right? The game, nobody dies if you don't take out the healers. Nobody dies. It's very frustrating, you know.
You have to burn the cooldowns as well.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's one of those cases where if you're disorganized, your gameplay, your casual gameplay is going to be even worse than it is now. And your structured gameplay will have a really nice pace to it because there's
if you're at the right level.
Correct. Which is why I'm really curious about your experience on console now that the beta is on console, because I know we've got that on deck to chat about a little bit. But that, you know, I've always said when you look at console versus PC, the big difference you notice, Matt, you notice this too. I think we talked about this. Verticality is something that really only exists on PC, and it's just by virtue of the way a controller works versus a keyboard mouse combo. I'm so curious what that feeling is like between the two platforms now with this new type of gameplay, because there's aspects of the way you play Moira right now that just don't work that well. In especially on console, whereas Zenyatta probably works better on console now because your aim is so steady at a level and you're just shooting group shots, right? Like,
well, I turn aim assist off, so.
Oh, well, listen to you filthy pro.
You sadist.
Can I just say, it was after I literally just got mucking about with my settings one night, and I was like, "Oh, what the hell?"
Yeah,
it really makes a change. But no, switching to the console thing. So, one thing I will say straight off the bat, very well optimized. The graphics are gorgeous. I mean, I had very few frame drops. I think the only times when I played around on Dorado, there's like literally a million things at all the screen at the same time.
Okay.
So that was that. In terms of actual heroes, so I stuck primarily to my mains and things like that, of course. Orisa feels really good to play.
I have seen more of her.
I mean, she just feels a lot better now. It's like she's not a stand-in-place tank anymore. She's literally like, I'm going to charge you down. Almost like Reinhardt in a way. So, I mean, her ultimate is a little bit lackluster, but I mean, the best way I could describe Orisa is in a game like Smite, you've got basic attack gods and ability-based attack gods. And you've basically to build accordingly. So, transfer that to Overwatch, you've got heroes like Genji who are basically use their ultimate or bust. And then you have other heroes like Orisa, who is more about her cooldowns. Orisa falls into that latter category. For me. But honestly, I've had a blast. I mean, the only thing I would say is that it's a bit tricky to keep track, if not for the UI on screen, which is amazing. It's very hard to keep track of your minigun or Gatling gun, no matter what you call it. It's like you get the glow from Orisa's gun, and then you get the meter on the screen, which I actually worked out. You can shoot for 10 seconds straight before cooldown, which is actually really nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I would prefer if there's more of an interaction, say, like a visual cue, like, hey, the gun's about to overheat kind of thing. That's my only gripe with that. Favorite hero in the game? Sombra. I am loving Sombra in Overwatch 2. Apologies to anybody who hates on Sombra, but I am a main.
I keep running into them right now.
So this is the thing that I think got overlooked by a lot of people. So in Overwatch 1, when you wanted to hack someone, you had to, from stealth, you had to leave stealth and then go over the hack. There was like a 2-second delay between getting out of stealth and starting the hack. It's like about 2 seconds, something like that. In Overwatch 2, that hack delay is non-existent. And it is amazing. It's almost like a quality of life fix. Because they could have just said, okay, I'm just going to take out the delay entirely. But you take out the animation entirely, and it just feels a lot better. It's so much better.
And you stay stealth, right?
Yeah, you stay in stealth when the hack. You get detected, so they know you're nearby, but that's about it. But the hack is really quick, and you can just get to work. And you've seen in the Overwatch League how teams are using her to scout on top of that. But no, I mean, overall, I'm actually really happy with the way things have gone. I mean, my biggest gripe right now is something that I think everyone can relate to, is the queue times.
Sure. Well, yeah.
Transfer the queue times as they are now with the beta to the live launch. Nobody's going to get a damage or tank game.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a nightmare. It's like support's like less than 2 minutes for me, and
Mhm.
then tank and damage over 10 minutes.
Because
Oh,
that's where the new content is.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you just that's why they're. I mean, I'm glad that there are not like terrible junker queens every single game that don't want to play as a
I'm a bit
tank
hit and
and
miss
you
with
want to
junker
reach
queen,
through
I'll
your
admit.
screen and slap them in the face hole. You know, I think that's a nice thing that we've come into. I mean, but what's funny is, Matt, I don't know about your experience, but on support, there's no wait time. Like you're just in, you're in and out,
It's insta-queues.
right?
Yep.
It's awesome. But
Yeah.
that's why I'm curious about how the console rollout's been going, because again, this is my opinion of one, but given the way console executions are, I would have hoped that it was just completely open for anybody who went in on console, because you need a critical mass of players. Otherwise, your queue times for regardless of role will just mathematically get larger, and it's just kind of crappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not to get too far from it. So, my big gripe with Junker Queen is the axe. It just feels like it was a last minute ad. It's like the rest of her kit feels so damn good.
Yep.
But the hammer just feels a bit out of place on her.
That axe kind of, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
I could also imagine on console, like it's a little bit more oppressive. Just again, based off of how you move in the game. Because there's a little bit less verticality, you can get caught by that pull, the knife pull thing a little bit more as well too. I could imagine this is one of those times where I think the metas will look very different between console.
Yeah,
and
I'm lucky at the fact I've
PC.
not been hit by a knife yet. So
Sure.
even though I did Junker Queen a
interesting.
lot.
And they
But
did
then again,
nerf
I've got
her the amount it pulls you to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why the movement seemed different when I hopped in game just to kind of get my bearings for the podcast today, and I'm like, this seems different. I don't know why.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
there was
just
a
a
bug
little.
where it was pulling people further than they intended.
Yeah, you were getting pulled like right up to the face, like you're like,
Yeah,
it
you
was
can
like a
basically-
hook.
yeah,
It's like a
getting
hook
hooked.
shot. Like you go,
yeah,
"Hey, come to me, bang."
yeah.
But one thing I was thinking about, so the queue times situation, and for me, they've tried all kinds of things like the flex queue and things like that. To me, I got thinking about how other games sort of address that kind of thing. And I was looking at, say, Smite and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. They have daily challenges. And I thought to myself, why don't they apply something like that to Overwatch?
I think they will. I think that'll be something as part of the battle pass, and that's you're right. That is a very
you know it'd be
standard
so
game
funny.
thing.
You know what's gonna happen? Like, someone take me on this bet.
Okay.
The priority pass is going to be an additional payment on top of the battle pass, and you will always get priority queues.
Yeah, but if everybody pays for them, then it kind of
No,
negates
they'll figure out a way where it's like once you complete the pass, you get to pay for the priority. They're gonna figure something out to charge you for faster access to the game. Maybe by role. It'll be like you get priority pass by role, by mode. Like watch something like that happen.
I don't think they'll do it by role, because I think they'll want to keep it.
Jay's comments the best. Oh man, he's right. They are gonna do that.
Yeah, no.
They're gonna totally monetize the queue.
It'll be I think it'll be like a thing, like, you know how you go into
wristbands, man, at concerts and stuff, you know, like
the
VIP thing to get to the bar.
But even more like go into Apex and you can buy 6 boxes for $4.99 or $9, whatever. It'll be like you can buy 10 priority passes for $4.99.
Yeah, it'll be by like numbers.
Yeah,
like that's what it is. You buy
or buy 20 at a time. It'll be you get a little bit of a discount if you buy 25 of them. Oh,
even if everybody buys them, they still make their money.
Yeah,
and your experience and all of our experiences are still really crappy.
So this is what I mean with daily challenges, right? So you can have them as generic things like on support, heal X amount of damage, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sort of encourage people to queue in certain ways. I mean, with Master Duel, for example, I occasionally get this challenge where you have to just deal 15,000 points of damage. And keep in mind, a duel is like 8,000 life points a player. So it encourages you to think, okay, I need to complete this challenge. How am I going to build my deck for that? Apply that to Overwatch, and you could say, hey, sit on the objective for 5 minutes. it's over the course of several matches. Just an example.
Yeah.
So you could also, as well as encourage people to go into the queues you want them to, you could actually teach people how to play the game in a subtle way, which I think is something
that
not
would
just
be very
Overwatch.
cool. I would love to see
I mean,
an execution like that
the
because that
thing-
makes everybody's experience better.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, how many online games like Overwatch, League of Legends, things like that, how many of them actually teach you the game?
So, they're terrible at it.
The tutorials are awful.
Tutorials are awful. I still can't pass the Dota tutorial. It's embarrassing.
They basically give you the basic bare bones. They're like, here you go, get to this game. Good luck. So you can actually, I mean, again, using Master Duel and Smite to another extent, they use the daily challenges to get you to try other things. Like, I could say get a challenge in Smite of play 3 games as a Guardian, which occasionally
it's funny you mentioned that because they literally have that. Remember, Matt, do you remember they have that as a core mechanic in Gundam Evolution? Remember the daily the missions were like get 10 kills, but they would randomly assign you units. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get 10 kills as a Sasabi? And it was resurrect 5 people, but you had to do it with a specific mech. And I'm like, I don't know how to use Barbatos, but okay, I'll give it a shot. And I never got that pass for that day because it's like I can't do it. So I think what we'll see is like, again, my hunch is that, and this is actually related to what Bert's saying. So Bert was asking, we're looking for clarification. Are we saying that gamer and priority passes are going away, or that a paid version would be also available? Now, if I were Blizzard and I wanted to do the crappiest thing that I know people are going to do anyway, because we let everybody do whatever they want when we like the IP, right? It's that I would actually have both, but the paid passes are priority over the standard fast pass. So it's sort of like how you get like a fast pass and like a premium fast pass.
Yeah,
Like
like
basically it'll be like
kind of
like loyalty points on like United, where it's like, are you zone A or B or C? And it's like all of us are going to be zone F. That's going to be us. We'll be the regular people in zone F.
As long as they don't do what Konami did with Metal Gear Survive and charge you for an extra save slot, that's fine by me.
That's a whole other level of dirty.
No, I can see that for sure.
Watch anyway. I've got my Mayhem skins, so
no, Richard, I could totally see it being, hey, like your weekly challenges, you complete all your weeklies, you get 10 priority passes. That's great, cool. But if you buy passes, you're in that tier just about like we're gonna give that a little extra. I could,
and you're gonna see that the really aggressive, like competitive players will get that because it's actually good for them, right? Because it gets them it's even better than people just playing a lot. You're playing a lot and you're investing in the ecosystem. And there'll be some like terrible statement about how it's to create different ways of engaging and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, the reality is everyone's going to buy those passes. A good chunk of people will buy those. Because remember,
especially your streamers who want, who are tired of sitting in those DPS queues for 15, 20,
because you're already thinking, right? Like you might get a couple of them, right?
Yep.
And then if you want to be really bad, you make them expire.
Yeah. I mean, what's that old saying?
Don't give them that. Don't put it out there either. Don't put it out there.
A fool's money is easily parted, isn't it? So it's that kind of situation.
So
I've got what I want out of it, so I'm all good.
Yes, 100%. One last thing that I'm like the challenges, because like I said, I think that'll be a standard thing. I want it. It's a simple thing. It seems so simple, but this is something that Halo totally screwed up when they went live service at the beginning of Infinite. Is you have to be careful about what challenges you put out.
Oh, that's right.
Because here's the thing: in an objective based team game, if you make especially, or what they really have to make sure is for your certain challenges do not count in ranked, which might piss people off. But then you have a bunch of people running around playing Widow when they suck at Widow because the challenge is get 5 sniper shots. Today. And you don't care about winning the game. You're just getting your challenges. You're completing your weekly so you can get this skin or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Master Duel. So I get 3 daily challenges. Each one's worth 40 gems. Logging in, I get 20. And watch a replay is 5. So even with Steinax, it's 145 gems. One booster pack in that game, it's 8 cards, is 100 gems. So that works out every 2 days I could get 3 packs in theory. If that's not counting other add-ons and things like that. So imagine. So also the challenges are just generic enough that anybody can do them for the most part. So imagine. So I'm not saying that Overwatch 2 would have to go. Oh, as you say, Matt, 5 sniper shots. They don't have to do that. They can just go as support, get X amount of healing, or as tank.
Right. They you just got to avoid those things where it's going to make people, not avoid, keep it objective based and team. So you're still working with your team and other stuff. So you're not running around doing random crap instead of focusing on.
It requires some thinking and balance. That was also a Gundam Evolution problem where it was like if you're going for kills as a support unit, it's just not that useful, right? Because it was completely random
for the role.
Exactly. It's more like they have to think through scenarios that make sense. But I do agree with you. It's a great way to get people introduced, and battle passes in general and battle pass culture. It's a good way of getting people to go through these cycles because you can actually build them into the passes, right?
Yeah.
So that people start to learn one pass is like support themed or one is deep themed, but then maybe another one is all about like controls, like flip control points, be on the point when you flip it. It's a really good way to it's incentivizing what people are probably already doing. So just make sure they do things. But for those who don't know or need to kind of get into the game, it's a really nice way because this game really needs to open up the bottom floor a little bit. It's not like so. One thing I want to ask you, Plex, is you heard my comment when the betas first came, and my first take was one, outside of the sound management being just the worst thing I've ever heard in the history of gaming.
I remember.
2, it's really not pick up and play friendly for new players, like people who don't really play these games where Overwatch was. And I'd love to know what your take is, because console is very much. I mean, look, I love consoles, and a lot of people start there and then maybe they port over. But I'm curious what your take is.
Yeah, so to be perfectly honest, I've not really paid much attention to the sound purely on the grounds of. I'm more focused on like trying to survive a lot of the time.
It sounds a lot better now. They fixed some of the huge issues that were there when it launched. But what about the style of play? Like, how do you feel?
It feels like there's more emphasis on the tank to stay up. That's to me, because there's the number of times where the tank has gone down and all hell breaks loose. It's literally like breaking the dam scenario of you take out the tank, everyone else is basically cannon fodder. And one other thing I noticed is I thought the Bastion rework would make him a little bit less effective. If anything, he's even worse. It's like he's more effective at low ranks.
Oh, yeah, because there's no shields. So you get a lot of people who, if they're not quick on the dive...
Not what I was thinking, Richard.
Yeah.
It's the fact that his turret form is mobile.
Oh, yeah. And he's just like in Honor and Glory cinematic.
Well, the thing is, I actually ran an experiment on my own time. It's like, when you're in that... I think it's turret form, like when you're around, things like that. It lasts for 7 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So I actually did an experiment. I set up it in the practice range. I think it was like Roadhog and Diva. And then you had the 2 bots behind you. I was able to take out all 3 and face the tank in less time than 7 seconds. So that to me needs readdressing big time.
Yeah,
like 4 or 5 seconds.
So I've been like running into those situations where like a Zen heal orb's always on the Bastion, and the Bastion just follows the Discord. Right? That's it. Because now that you can move 7 seconds with the Bastion plus anyone else will eliminate anybody.
Well, as a hypothetical comp, you could build, say, Sigma Bastion, May, Baptiste, and possibly Mercy. That Bastion is staying up.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Actually, I did have that once with a May Bastion setup, and when he was getting low, it was amazing. The May just put the shield up in front of him.
Yeah.
So that gave enough time for some heal to land. And then when the shield came down, the Mercy would just turn on the damage. So it was just, and it was awful. It was just awful.
Realistically, they need to either look at the damage output of that recon mode or nerf the time you're in it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
Yeah.
lower ranks are going to be bashed central.
So
yeah.
McWhiskers, is saying in the chat, it's the same as Junker Queen. When she gets that pocket healer, she's basically unkillable, and it's very true.
Oh yeah.
I'm that hero does need some work. I'm like, I've seen a Junker Queen survive against 3 people continuously hitting her. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like durability is fine. Other tanks are durable, but she's weirdly durable.
Well, so I thought about this a lot too, and I'm like, at first I thought it was okay because I'm like her whole gimmick, right? Her gimmick is the bleed, right? That's her whole kit is the bleed. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's all focused on that. I like a theme, right? I'm a person like that, and the damage from all her, like, as long as her initial damage from her gun, all this stuff isn't crazy OP. I get the idea, but it's the fact that every single ability causes bleed. So her melee causes bleed. The axe causes bleed. Her ultimate causes bleed. I don't know if I think the knife causes bleed.
Everything causes bleed, yeah.
Everything except her shotgun. And so literally, as long as you're just hitting buttons and doing something, you're gaining life back.
So
that's what was happening. So even the knife is. Oh, that's why I kept.
Even the knife, and when it causes
that.
damage, gives her life back, gives her life bleed. So knife, axe, melee, ultimate. So as long as you're spamming buttons, you're healing yourself and damaging other people.
Yeah.
So she's like Brig when she started.
Kind of.
Yeah. So
actually, it does feel kind of similar because remember there were always those 3-on-1s on Brig, and then like the Brig would be successful, and then you do like a little dance emote.
And
I would.
How Goats was born.
yeah. I know that the hero does need a ton of work in that sense, because even with that bleed, their damage output's high enough that it's just annoying because you will kill off everybody else.
And on top of having now her hard counter is the Zen orb, is the Discord.
Even then though,
but even then, and as a lot of people have pointed out, like she also has like a pretty damn small hitbox for a tank.
Yeah,
she's wiry. She's thin, and her even though she's got the big.
What
you can't shoot her hair. You can't shoot her hair.
Yeah,
you should be able to.
What caught me out was there were times I was looking around, I was like, okay, who's nearby and things like that. There were times where I was looking around, I see Junker Queen, and I think it's Ash. It's like at a glance, like you're spinning the camera around. She looks like Ash.
Yeah, the running motion is a little bit similar the way the silhouette looks.
Yeah.
My favorite thing though to do is it's like I always joke that Zen's like such a great counter in some ways, because like even when she does her charge, like you just keep kicking. Like all I do with Zen is just like hold W, keep scrolling down to get the.
Hold on a second. You actually played something other than Brig?
I actually mainly play Zen right now because it's so easy.
Oh yeah.
So like when you need to take a point, I've literally done this where it's like people are like everyone gets on the point, and all I do is run around kicking, and you kick everybody off the point, and you win. I kick people off the point. That's all you have to do with Zen. You just kick people. You can do juggles with his kick right now.
Really?
It's awesome. I totally did that to somebody, and they're like, this is busted. I'm like, oh yeah, it's busted, because you're kicking them in the air while there's a Discord, and then you're shooting them in the nuts, right? Like, or the crotch, right? And they can't do anything because you can keep kicking them around.
Yeah.
And that's
because they never hit the ground. Like, it's just really weird.
That's why when I was playing, if I ever saw a Zed, I literally stayed away. It's like, kept my
the heroes bounce off walls. It's so weird. Like, Zen's kick doesn't make any sense to me. I kick people off ledges all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like Junker Queen has no knockback limitation. So when you go to like Ilios, and there's always they always do the thing where they wait by the door on the right to try to get you coming out of one of those little ruins things. And all you have to do is whenever you turn the corner, just kick. And you like send them off the edge. It's the funniest thing.
Oh, is that on Ruins, the bridge?
Yeah, you just kick.
Yeah.
Every time you turn a corner, the corner check is kick.
Media. I don't know who posted it, so I can't find it. But it was on Busan's Sanctuary, where it was one of these streamers. He was kicking people off the ledge on the right-hand side of the map.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's weird. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
But
if
I have
you're
a
doing
feeling
it,
it'll be annoying after a while.
They might need to
not to be fair, not as annoying as certain things we saw in the Overwatch League, right, Matt?
There, look at Mr. Transition. Yes. Getting into some competitive action. I'm trying to think of where I want to go first here. I mean, let's go to
Where to start?
what
I just said the banner.
Okay.
What in this C9 hell was going on this weekend? In a couple of different games, but specifically things like it was Dallas and London, where the Dallas Fuel C9 3 times in one map.
I mean, the first map point was the worst. That one was like, guys, there were three of them fighting on the bridge, and I'm like, are you not looking at the point at
Even
all?
Jaws was like, guys, there's a payload. There's a payload.
Weird.
Very, very strange. Very, I don't even want to know.
Yeah,
Like,
Dallas are a good team.
I don't know. I've got look. I poked at this a little bit, but I don't even think this is a team thing. Like, this keeps happening, and I've seen that discourse where people are saying, "Oh, the game is unclear. It's this and that." I'm like, this is all they do.
No, I know that. I don't buy that as a
do. If we can figure it out playing ourselves, you can figure this out if you're a professional player in an organization. And all I keep thinking is that there's something else that's going on, because you have these kinds of lapses in concentration, these lapses in judgment. It can come from a lot of things, and it doesn't have to just be because of knowledge of game rules. I know teams where your food budget per player is $15 per meal. Like, what the hell are you supposed to eat well like that? And when you think about a culture like that, you kind of wonder,
especially in New York City.
Oh,
in a city like New York,
I know.
Bucks.
And then I'm like, well, they can cook for themselves. I'm like, you think any of these people cook? These folks are living off of skip the dishes, or Uber Eats. Like, it's a disaster.
There's a reason they have a team chef.
Yeah. Do they still have one?
Yeah, they do. She's also
no wonder they play so damn well. But it tells you a little bit about how, like, the I don't know. I think there is a problem somewhere that is systemic. It's all throughout the teams, because we know they're on crazy budgets, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're in situations that are conducive to leading you to be exhausted, tired, and make bad decisions. Look at that. Like, this is just
egregious. There's C9s and then there's that.
Now, and this is the thing, like, I do think, I understand when casters get confused and they kind of meme, but you can just be like, what's causing this? So spend more time on the overhead map. What were they even trying to do? And that's what I can't figure out.
I'd say, playing devil's advocate for a second. So typically in 6v6, you would send, say, a diva back to contest the payload to make sure it doesn't go through. Yeah. So do you think? So question to you two gentlemen: do you think the change from 5v5 is a factor in this?
Well, we did see Dallas had attempts to get back with the Winston. It was just off by like a half second.
Here's the one. Fearless jumps over the cart that is approaching the box. He's the only one out.
But all of the Winstons have had bad jumps since the beginning of the league. Like, why? Remember, I was like, is there a reason why Kellen jumps over, like, past everybody and then tries to run back and then hit them with the Winston tickler afterward? There's weird things happening in the game. I still think people aren't comfortable in some of the roles they've been put into. I think my hunch is, think about it this way. If your distances are off this much all the time, your verification checks, situational awareness is off. These are things that you put in at a coaching level. You teach people where to look.
Yeah.
The same way that, like, in any sport, like hockey, do not look down. It doesn't matter where the puck is. If you miss that puck, that's fine, but you never stare at the ice. You're dead.
Yep. Don't get caught ball watching.
Right? And every sport. And all I'm wondering now is, it's like, has anyone, like, I mean, maybe this is the thing that no one wants to talk about, but hey, just putting it out there, maybe a lot of the people within the system right now are not good at this game. They are not good at coming up with solutions to win this game. We are seeing teams that have actual strategies. I've gone on about how I think Mayhem's doing interesting things. You can see what they're playing at.
Yeah,
you can see where they're going.
Style.
And everyone else, like, let's play, get good, headshots, click. Like, guy, it's not working. And it's not that they don't get wins. It's that these nonsensical things come up. And again, these are things that are hard coded, and like the players get right now, there's like no excuse for it because the beta is available and they have their practice time, which means they can just play the game. Before they were like, I can't play the game that I'm playing. Well, you can do that this stage. And now we're seeing an increase of bad decisioning.
Yeah, I will say this about the London versus Fuel game. This is something I picked up on New Queen Street. Did you guys notice what happened whenever the window went down?
No, tell us though, because now I'm curious what I missed.
Whenever the window went down, this is in general when they were playing the rush. Fearless immediately dove for the window. So I spoke on the podcast last week about space control using Sombra to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Fearless did a similar thing this time around with the Doomfist and the Winston. The second the window was put down, he was on them like a bad rash. So he was denying the ultimate just by being there. So we've seen how EMP can be countered with the Transcendence or Sound Barrier, for example. So abilities and ultimates can counter each other.
Sure.
But the fact that Fearless was using his own body was actually a really interesting take. And it worked. Like anytime Landon put that window down, Fearless was up in his grill. I'm not sure if it made it to the highlights package, but it's something interesting to.
No, I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
New Queen Street, it was there. Also, Ilios Well was another one.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting strategy because I mean you put yourself at risk there, especially being the only tank that diving down like that. But yeah, you're basically body blocking the window.
Yeah,
by just scrambling
with him. I should point that out. It's like it was always Sparkle diving with him, but it was literally the second that window went down, Fearless was there, like denying it basically by existing as opposed to using an ability. It's really fascinating to watch. I don't know if that's something that he did on the fly or he was told to do it by the coaching staff, but it was brilliant. That was one of those micro plays you don't really think about.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the flip side of that as well, we also had, I'm going to switch banners here just a teeny tiny bit. Did we witness?
Do we even need to discuss this?
Yes.
Heaven help our souls.
You know, we need to. So I watched these highlights because I missed this game, you know, because I was coming in.
I watched it live.
Bro, I am not good at Overwatch. I am not good at this game. I am a Bronzeberry, Silver Stanley at best. But
same here.
But just watching some of the stuff again, the individual skill and play or whatever. But like some of these strategy and weird things, they don't even show you at the beginning of this map. This is the one Plex, right, where it was like the first like 4 minutes, like nobody. It felt like nobody.
Yeah, it was like a minute, 2 minutes went by, and the bot was still basically in
hadn't moved. Like everybody was just like
3 meters one way. That's about it.
I don't know. And then these. I don't know what Krillin was doing in the back line here, just like hanging out, like boop, boop, boop. There's like they just totally. I don't know what Justice blew a big lead, not as big as we'll get into what the lead Outlaws blew in their game, but it was doing some weird stuff, and then some more C9s in this game.
The best way I could put it is Richard, you might remember this when Boston Uprising played Houston Outlaws in 2020, that first game.
Yes. Yep.
It was considered the toilet bowl, the original toilet bowl.
I mean, there's been a few ones. I mean, look, remember we saw, was it New York and Vancouver earlier this year? That was like pretty bad. Is this worse than that?
Well, what I was going to say is in that match, I think it was Bread and Sideshow calling it. And at times they were saying it's which team doesn't want to lose. It's like they're trying to avoid loss and go for the win. And we saw a lot of that here. It's like there's a lot of nerves in their play. And it's like
what I don't get though is you're Washington. How can you have nerves against Vancouver? This is like you walk into a room and there's like a guinea pig and you're convinced the guinea pig is going to like hit you with a baseball bat. So you approach it with caution. If anything, this is a tremendous
it's not the rabbit from Monty Python.
Yeah, this is
You
an
don't need to hold
indictment of how
how great
bad,
Angry are.
of how low Washington's floor is. Like, were they all drunk? Were they like, I don't know, did they all order too much fried chicken the night before and their hands were greasy on the controls?
mouse.
But my point
Yeah.
though is, it's that like this is what I'm saying. No teams, but especially Washington, like Vancouver's got a reason for this. They're still figuring things out. They're learning new systems. They're kind of getting through it, and they are looking nominally better at times,
Mhm.
Well,
right?
they couldn't get much worse, could they?
But that's the whole thing.
Mhm.
Everything's better than like, it's like you have food poisoning and then the next day like you're throwing up less. Like, yeah, you're better, but you're still like you're still like a vomit covered nightmare. You know, that's Vancouver. Whereas
Yeah.
like Washington, you've got no business playing so badly. But again,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where all I can think is there are so many teams that are playing really poorly right now. Like in this week, it was really bad. Why? What happened? Like there's got to be
No
some, like, I
kidding.
have to
Well-
give benefit of doubt and think there's an extraneous factor here because it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, on top of that, how many teams actually had something on the line in their matches? I mean, Mayhem versus Gladiators. They were basically locked in for their seeding. So
A lot of
it
teams
was basically a practice
that,
match.
which is a possibility of like, hey, well, yeah, people, some people are playing for seeding. The spots, especially in NA, were already locked in, so nobody was like had their tournament life on the line. So you could argue like a lack of motivation. It's just closing out the stage, get ready for break, whatever.
Don't want to give away too much.
But still, like, I don't know, that as a professional, to me that sucks. If that's I don't know if that's the case. That sucks if that is. I get it. Trust me, I've been there too, where it's like, look, there's literally nothing on the line. Let GG go next.
No, I mean, I do get that though, right? Like in sports, you'll do that. Like you'll put your subs in. If you're already relegated, you let whoever can't play play a game. Playoffs in the NHL, you never play. If you're set in your seed, once that's done, you just rest your top players. They don't even play the games at all because you're not trying to risk injury. So in this case, it might have been that they let the teams go out and just do whatever you want, have fun. Don't worry about when you have to sleep. There's no curfew. Do whatever you want. But the thing is, it just like looks. The thing is, if you do that, you have to at least look decent, and this did not look decent.
No,
like
Vancouver playing Sigma here, three full games in a row. It was just like not even trying. False didn't even try anything else. Was weird.
It's also a case of you don't want to be the first team to lose to Vancouver Titans.
That's also
It's
true.
Yeah, but how did it take Washington this long to make that decision?
Dude, I know.
Like I said, this is far more of an indictment on Washington. I don't know how you like DK on their own should be able to wipe that team. Do you know what I mean? Like we've seen DK at their peak. Now we've obviously seen blips, but that team is just better. They should be doing more. Maybe it's PenFed's fault. Aren't they sponsored by them? We should blame the sponsors.
Yeah, look at
PenFed
the video
and redtag.ca. They're the
video
real
here.
reason.
I liked this comp that Vancouver ran on Ilios. This was brilliant. They were able to really set the tempo. Like they got up in Justice's face. And
they're rarely seen Diva. The Diva does not get a ton of play time,
but also in combination with the other heroes as well.
Oh
like, basically a rush comp of some sort.
And with the Moira Lucio, that was an interesting. It was an interesting way to go, and it proved effective.
Yeah, so it wasn't what got them the win, but at the same time, I actually appreciate they tried something different.
Yeah.
Whereas you can see Justice, they basically hard locked Doomfist comp or specific compositions. They just didn't really flex around. So I do appreciate Vancouver tried something different. And that's something I always appreciate. It's the fact that yes, we're not doing very well. So let's try something different to try and catch the opponents out.
Yeah. But it was, let me see if I can get it. It was the finish to this matchup.
Yeah.
So Vancouver ends up winning.
Discussions about this.
Oh my God. So it was on Coliseum. It was on push, pretty close. And
very back and forth. Like everyone was trying to counter comp. It's like we saw Vancouver make a switch. Then we saw Justice make a switch.
Yeah. And it was, they get to the end where, waiting for we should be getting close to it.
What was that bomb?
Matt's trying to find
that bomb in a hallway. I don't know what it was.
That was a remake bomb.
Oh, it was a remake? But why?
Excellent question. For those listening on the audio version, we're watching the finish. If you, I tell you to go back and watch it to watch something happen.
Yeah,
it's
Okay, wait,
it's just it's very, very interesting. We're almost dead even here. They reached the checkpoint.
yeah.
Right?
So
They've already passed the checkpoint once.
yeah,
So the problem is, here we go. The checkpoint is here. Washington passes the checkpoint. Vancouver takes it
there's one more
back.
playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vancouver take it back.
And then Washington take it back.
Yeah, because just at this point are behind.
Yes.
Okay.
No, they're
By
not. They're
a
actually
very
ahead
small
now.
amount, I should
They're
add.
ahead. No, they're ahead right now.
So I couldn't remember which way around it was.
Yeah. I can't remember. I'm waiting for the finish.
That moment.
Okay. So they get
Okay,
the
so we're in
point
OT.
now. Okay,
Yeah.
now it's OT.
Brace yourself.
There.
Wait, what just happened?
Exactly.
Washington.
Go
won.
back for a second.
So they kind of skip over a little bit. So what it was, Washington. So Vancouver took it back. They got it ahead. They were very neck and neck. Vancouver got the
but
ball
they're
back
not even on the point. Why are they not on the point?
because they thought it was going to stop at the checkpoint again and wait.
That's not how the game works.
I know.
There's no
But even if it
UI.
stops,
They were
why-
too busy taking a fight over here.
So,
No.
so just to
And they
break
just
this down for you a bit, Richard, this is a theory
C9's
I've
the
seen
hell out of
online.
it.
So this is the theory I've seen online. It's like Vancouver expecting the butt scratch again when they hit the checkpoint, which
Yeah,
is a
but
fair assumption. But
Well, no.
at the same
That's a
time-
dumb way to approach the game because the butt scratch, if you're in OT, you take the win. You take the fight. That
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense because even if he's on a butt scratch, okay. So you wait a half second potentially in overtime, but that also gives the other team time to set up. That just doesn't make any sense.
It's also a question of, did Titans assume that the butt scratch had not happened? That's another factor. We don't.
But they should have known. That's the kind of thing at high level play, at professional level play. You should
know this.
You should know.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
Okay.
yeah, they have the checkpoint. It's
What
not
are you
gonna go
paid to
again.
do?
Yeah,
Like
this is literally your job.
It's like wrestlers. You're paid to body slam people.
It's
I'm
like
not expecting it's assumed you know how to lock up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean-
First thing, lock up.
I get that.
Ad
But
nauseum. Right.
There's a theory going around Mayhem Cord that the UI wasn't actually informing the Titans. I mean, that's just a theory I've heard.
No.
I know. Right. I don't buy
Don't
that.
shoot
Yeah.
messenger.
No. I get it. I just
You
don't
suck.
buy it.
You're Vancouver. You're a bad team
was a
from a
bad
bad
play.
city. You have nice guys on your team, but everything else about you is bad. Your organization's bad. Your city's bad. Your province is bad. We don't like anything about you. Right?
Full
Even
disclosure-
your sponsor's weird.
Full disclosure, Rich is from Toronto.
Quiet you. No, but it's just like it's one of those cases where it's like, and how?
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's just say it didn't tell them that they were in overtime. The game didn't tell them that you have to be on the point in overtime when you're behind when the other team's moving the bot and they have to get ahead of you in distance. All you ever look at is what's the distance, who has final carry. It's like football, like NFL, American football.
Mhm.
Like if you're on the run, you get to go. Could you imagine in the NFL, like, well, clock ran out and he's running, but whatever. That's not how the game works. It's like you get that. The game is about possession. I mean, it boggles my mind that an Overwatch league, people are having difficulty figuring that push is about possession. It's the most American thing ever, the way they've set this up. It's about possession, which is why if you're in overtime and you get that bot and you stay on that bet all the way to the end, as long as you get past the yardage that the other team has gotten, you win.
Yep.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, again, but this is also one of those times where I'm like, okay, but what leads people? And like jokes aside, as much as I'll tease Vancouver, like what leads organizations and teams to have basic fundamental misses in judgment? Sometimes it's because you don't care, you're unwilling to, you're unable to, or there's something outside, because it's just really weird. It's like I know a lot of the teams are not keen on the setup for the midseason tournament in Hawaii, and it is true. Why is it that every team that's flying into Hawaii has massive penalties basically levied against them based on both cost and time, but in the East you get to do everything? Oh, you don't even get your practice time impacted. I mean, I think we know why, right? Because that's where the money is. You're not making any money, getting any views on Overwatch League in North America. You need it to work in the Eastern market. It's beneficial financially to make those teams look better, to give them every opportunity to win, because then you get to show off some really staged mall execution, in like Guangzhou, to talk about how great it is. And I'm like, like that's what this is for. It's like all the bad elements of Formula One, but in right, a little bit less now, but you know what I mean? It's staged. Like, I'm not saying they make up the results, but there are reasons why you don't care about the impact on people here. Right. And again, we've seen this. We've seen teams where they were like, we're going to care about healthcare and we're going to give people 401ks and we're going to have longer term contracts so you're not mortgaging your entire future. We're going to make sure you eat properly and not have a gamer diet. And like within 1 year, they're like, actually, it's not going to be like that. And now it's like you're on 30-day contracts eating like not like they don't even have the goodness and ethical fiber to give you vitamin as your noodle. No, you're just gonna eat some like spicy ass nongshim. Like the culture's in a very bad space. And again, I keep saying this, but I'm like, there's got to be some reason why people who are clearly better, we know they are better. These teams are better. These players are better. How do you come up with so many bad situations? What has been taken out? Because only Shanghai looked this bad.
I will say
in the first year of Overwatch.
At least, unlike Riot, they're not dropping a big patch on the day before of a world tournament. It's like, I remember, what was it? There was one patch they did years ago where literally the day before they were like, oh, we're going to put this in. And it overbuffed certain characters. I can't remember which year it was, but at least they're not doing that. Like dropping a patch last minute. On the players.
Right, but I think we're talking more about like the culture of the whole of the league and everything about that behind that. Like I totally get where Richard's coming from with that. I totally hear you. Something's got to change there for sure. Well, speaking of changes, moving business along, we woke the next bit of owl drama we woke up to this morning was the Guangzhou Charged. Well, I woke up today. At least
they have a new team.
They have basically a new team,
but they needed that, right?
That is true. Again,
isn't that awesome?
They're kind of like the Vancouver Titans of APAC at the moment.
So no one's the Vancouver Titans are a league of their own.
I recently heard said, and I do believe it though. I'm like, with APAC being smaller and their level of talent, I do think like the bottom of APAC is still way better than the bottom of NA, generally speaking. And the middle of APAC, I think, is probably better than the middle of NA in a lot of ways.
Well, we'll find out next week, won't we?
We will find out for a lot of them. But anyway, so they get rid of 3 key players. They get rid of Unique, they get rid of Develop, and they get rid of one of their coaches they
get rid of Young
Rio
and then Rio as well.
Rio, that's right. So big changes to the Guangzhou Charge, which I mean, again, they're at the bottom of the APAC ladder and they are not in the tournament, so that it is time to refocus ahead of the Summer Showdown. And then they add, which I've been calling this one for, and a lot of people have for a long time, Aprita, who had left the Chengdu Hunters in the midst of all their kind of turmoil.
Right. Yes.
And so it was also tweeted here, in addition to Aprita, so Aprita, Jimmy, and Xerneas will join them.
And Xerneas is not Eviltal, right?
Yeah. Used to be called Eviltal.
And now he has a new
So it's basically the spine of the old Chengdu Hunters.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that this is totally like the wrestling name change. It's like he went from being, it's like, we repackaged him. Now Sting wears black and white. Exactly. And then he'll do this forever.
Exactly.
I think it's great. Look, here's the thing. They had to do something. We have no idea how this is going to look. There's obviously Junker Queens coming into play.
Yep.
We're going to see new Moiras. We're seeing more stuff happening. You know what it is? This is what we should be seeing from a team that doesn't want to keep losing. And like, you've got to change something, because keeping it the same is going to assure you of a loss. So I think we should be seeing things like this.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to have such a drastic shift in the middle of a season. This is sort of the thing where you typically expect like a pickup heading into playoffs. That's what do you do at the trade deadline? It happens in baseball all the time. This is a substantial change. I'm curious what the contract requirements are for people they let go.
30 days, brother. I'd be willing to bet.
See, my concern is, so Rio, I agree, should have been dropped, because he has, I don't know what he had on the coaching staff of the organization, but
he's been there since the beginning.
Exactly. He was one of the originals, but he's always been dipping. It's like he's over. Krog looks really good. I mean, but even then, he's dropped as well, which is a shame.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Develop is very much a hyper specialist, like snipers. He can play these other picks, but
yeah,
you can tell that it's not really his thing.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I think Unique was on New York Excel before.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if anybody wants to double check that. I want to say it was, because he had the experience going in.
Yeah.
So I just think to myself, yeah, I can understand it, but at the same time, it's a case of you kind of asking to go to reinvent the wheel almost. So that you've taken the spine of the Chengdu Hunters, and you're hoping to build off that. So
yeah, essentially.
I just think to myself, the Chengdu Hunters worked in their environment. So how will these players handle the Guangzhou environment, so to speak?
Yeah, and the other thing is too, especially with the excuse me, some of the contender stuff starting up again. I think all of them?
They're all two-way until
they're all two-way players. Jimmy and Xerneas are all two-way players, so they're on the academy team as well.
Yeah, they're going to be playing in the summer bracket, and then when the Summer Showdown starts, they'll be in the mix for that.
So I mean, what we're really looking at is
play time.
Yeah, this is just a it's a good way to shake up the roster. In worst case, you put him in an academy and you sign more people, right? This is why you do it. I mean, you do it on the backs of people who are, again, mortgaging their futures for this, but that's a different discussion altogether. But again, I think it's just interesting that a team that doesn't want to lose should be making changes, and we actually saw this because we don't see this elsewhere, right?
It's true.
I'd say we saw Shanghai Dragons and Florida Mayhem try that previously.
Yeah, it's
doing these full on like full charge changeovers
in the middle of the season.
In the middle of the season is pretty rare. And it's weird. It's always a tough one because you never want to see people go. You never want to see people lose that opportunity. But it is right. At the end of the day, like this, I think sometimes we with esports as burgeoning as it still is, and these are a lot of very young kids. I think we have this like, but like, come on, but if this is supposed to be sports, this is cutthroat. Like, you got to be the best of the best, and if your team's not performing, it is a little cutthroat. It's goodbye. Trust me. Like I've seen that too in my line of work, and it sucks, and it is a little cold sometimes, but it's about winning, and it's about results. It's a results based,
my only hope with this lineup is not only do they actually make the team look better, I just want them to actually engage, not wait for 10 seconds to get one ultimate. It's like,
yes,
we might need this, and then all of a sudden they're all wiped out. It's like, but we didn't have this ultimate. Who cares? Just get in there and rough them up, kind of thing.
Yeah, will this pick up the pace for them a little? Will this pick up the aggression? So really quick before we move on, then, I mean, do we like solid? Again, all people with some solid Overwatch League experience, obviously coming in here, big, part of the Hunters who, in recent, didn't blow people away, but had some really high peaks in there, and there's some definite talent. Is this, just off of our initial feeling, is this the change? Does this move the needle for Charge going into summer?
I honestly don't know, because they've still got the same head coach, haven't they? So it could be they've got new tools, but the same gardener. Use a weird analogy. Kind of
No, I get that. Yep. Same playbook, if you will.
So it's like you've got these new players in, but they're still going to be playing the Guangzhou way, which is this sort of very hesitant style.
Mm-hmm.
What then?
Yeah.
It's like you see, using Mayhem as a common example, because that's what I know most about. Well, I would admit, when you compare Kuki's style to Gunbar's style, you can see the clear definitions. Like Kuki would play this specific style, and now Gunbar's got this specific style. So, and you can tell that Checkmate, who was there before, you can tell the difference in his play style, things like that. So it's a case of unless we see the coaching shift, I'm not too convinced yet. I don't know about you, Richard, but that's just me.
Well, we'll see.
Says it all.
That says it all.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of strange things happening right now, right? When it comes to roster builds, it kind of reminds me of back in the day when, we'd be running wrestling simulator leagues on like using like TNM. And you know what happens like when you ask like a 10-year-old to like cast a movie and it's just like, it makes no sense. It's like those people like when the original X-Men movies are coming out, they're like, Tom Cruise should be Cyclops. Okay.
Sure.
No, you see that a lot, right? And then it's like, I actually don't know how to judge a lot of the players just because it's like, since we're dealing with like a vouch economy, and I'm like, basically I have this rule where like the more vouchers you get, the less worthwhile you are to talk to. So I'm like, I have no idea where this is going to go because I think I think Junker Queen I have a feeling we'll see her in play. I don't think it'll be like it won't be like the first stage where it's like, it's everyone's Winston nonstop, right? You're Winston or Doomfist and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see how some teams handle this because we do know the China teams do play a little bit differently, right? They're a little bit more fire free. That was the whole appeal of Chengdu with Among, right? Running the ball and stuff, like the one team that ran a lot of hamster ball. So, the challenge right now is the game is in such flux. Like we're not talking about patch updates. We're talking about new heroes who are fundamentally changing the way you play the game. And it's still a new game. I'm still convinced a lot of people are not they're pro you know what it is? It's like, here's the problem. These are all pro players and playing in a professional league in a game that they're not professionals at yet. It's impossible.
Yeah.
How are they professionals already at a game level? The game just came out. There's probably some people who are just better than everybody in the league, but you never heard of them.
Yeah.
Because the game's totally new. Right. Yeah. So
it is. I know. And people are, I think, are under. It's hard, and I get that it's hard.
It's almost impossible. It's an impossible challenge.
But it's all I'm saying. I think a lot of people probably like, what are you talking? You're gonna get it's the same freaking.
Oh, they're like,
game.
there's transferable skills, and this.
They just took a tank away or whatever. Yeah. It's fundamentally changed.
But it's like everyone does this. This is the whole thing. Everyone's like, well, there's transferable skills. I'm like, great. That means every Olympic wrestler is going to be great at pro wrestling because there's transferable skills.
Yeah.
No. You need to learn the style, and it takes a while to get it right because being good in wrestling, it doesn't actually look that exciting. Mm-hmm. It's effective, and effective body movements don't look cool in the ring. They don't, right?
It's like saying every painter is a good architect.
Oh my God. Yeah. Or like my favorite is like every graphic designer can make jerseys and uniforms. Like, no. I'm an illustrator. I can draw anything. No, you can't.
No, exactly.
You can't. You're terrible. Exactly. Your anime weave style is awful.
Some people can do a Some people
in Japan makes fun of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like some people could do a masterpiece, and others are Mr. X Morello.
I mean, yeah.
So honestly, I think like big shakeups. I don't think it's going to be as. We might find new things. Never forget Jonak. No, everyone remember when Excelsior started, when NYXL came on in the league. Remember, everyone's like, oh, LW Blue, totally mid-tier. They're never going to get past Shanghai. They're never going to get past Seoul Dynasty. Who the hell's this support they got? Never heard of this guy before. Jonak, who's this? That's what they said. They're going to be a solid 7th place. Quite frankly, most people who are like, I'm a super big brand in this space, they're not that good. Mm-hmm. They're making because they're all saying the same thing. It's like everyone's like, well, Vancouver has the components. Everyone says that.
Mm-hmm.
They all say it because that's the genre of agreeance and compliance. And like, yeah, that's great. Now tell us something we don't know.
Yeah.
But they can't ask those questions because we're dealing with a show. It's a TV show, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't get mad at the producers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, and we wouldn't want to see that either. It would be weird, right? But there's like, I think we're going to see some pretty big shifts, right? There's still the allure of Valorant pulled out so many people. Some people came back or came into the space. You know, CSGO, we'll see people kind of, they get to pick and choose. But what I think is going to be neat though, is that with these new heroes coming out, obviously nobody knows what's happening, but think about this. We barely got new heroes at all in Overwatch, and the game was busted in so many ways. And people had how many years to get good at that? We're dealing with people playing a game for the first time. And I don't care if it's only a 1 tank difference. The game's different. Every hitbox is different. And yes, you can get good at this, but you've not put in the time. They've not put in the time that you need to get really good at anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's like telling a boxer they're going to be really good at kung fu because they can punch. It's a different punch. Yeah, your base mechanics are the same. That doesn't mean you can do the right punch.
Right.
Right. And or you can do it well or make it look good or any of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll see. I mean, Guangzhou.
Oh, yeah, Whiskers, McWhiskers. That's probably the best point for like anybody in the US. He's saying it's like college football players. A handful are league ready in their rookie season. Most take a couple years on the bench to be great.
Yeah.
That is so true. And everyone thinks, oh, they're going to be great. Like happens in hockey. Nazem Kadri, when he was on the Leafs and he was in the Marlies, everyone's like, oh, he's ready to play on the starting line of the Leafs. I'm like, he's not. You ask anybody who plays hockey, who's coming out of juniors, like the CHL, or why you go to the A, like the AHL, a lot of players can't skate, not at an NHL level.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Kadri play on the Marlies, and it was like when you watch minor league hockey, everyone's going in slow motion, and then they're doing the craziest things that you would never do in the league, because if you did it at the speed of the league, you will die, right? But the guy couldn't skate, and he even admits this, and everyone's like, well, you should get up there, and you got like Don Cherry and all these pundits talking about how he should be there, but he was not ready. That's why he was down in the air, then he kind of bounced up and down a little bit, and then he made it. And that culture doesn't exist in esports. We don't believe in development. We believe in instant gratification, dropping people in. They have to do well. Otherwise, you're fired, and I'm going to replace you with someone else who's going to take a shittier, cheaper contract than you, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing that. We're seeing the effect of that right now, right? We've got a game that's new that you can't even get access to. Teams that weren't even players that weren't able to play these games to get
not
used
even
to
able
them,
to practice.
right? They couldn't even practice in their own time. Like, I could practice taking wrist shots all day long. Oh, Overwatch? Nope. Sorry. You get nothing, even though you're supposed to be the best in the world at what you do. You know, and we're seeing that, like, that rattling. And again, I keep thinking, like, man, some of these players must be like, well, it's my job. It's a job. You know what I mean? Because it's better than sitting around streaming all day and having to, like, only, like, because it's like, yeah, you're busy, but at least, you know, maybe the wage is better than what you got from streaming. I don't know. But my point is, it's like, the game, it's just, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Right. And it also took a guy like Kadri several years and a trade to a new team to put his head in the right spot.
Yeah.
Right. And that
at the end of the day, it is a new game, no matter how you decide to look at it, whether you like it or not, it is a new game. And we said it at the beginning, this season, especially at the pro level, with all the weird shit going on, especially like you said, they don't get to practice it when it's out of
ridiculous.
Scrim blocks and all that stuff, because it's not a live game.
Just give them access so they can just play on their own. Let them get some incremental revenue for themselves. I mean, we had that whole bullshit support a streamer and get the brig skin so that, you know, Amazon takes their 50% cut of the subs.
Oh, yeah.
And then they only target, like, I'm sure T-Pain is really going to be there for the Overwatch League and the culture, you know? Like, why? You want to know why? Because you do it so that streamers see Overwatch as a legitimate revenue source when they're really big, and you're actually offsetting the payments, because typically in a sponsored like campaign, you have to pay people. But here they're actually offsetting that by having the subs go to them, so you get some potential for retainment. I'm sure there's some really bad business proposal out there that says something like,
I'm sure,
and you will have the potential to retain this many subscribers, because as you know, the average is 15%, right? So it's like it becomes incremental revenue or some bullshit like that. But the thing is, that's the thinking that's going into the league and the game. And then you've got these players who, quite frankly, I'm pretty sure are busting their butts to try to get better. And who knows what the system is around them, how they're living, what system they have access to, the state of the game, the information they get. Quite frankly, I feel really bad for a lot of players, because this is not the deal at all that the league was supposed to be. Yeah, it's actually the worst of the league.
Sometimes when you think about everything, all the extenuating circumstances that you're talking about, and everything, it puts some of these top teams that we're watching in the league this year, like, it almost makes their talent almost even more mind blowing, that they're able to be so good.
And the shock and mayhem and the teams that are ruthless and talented and have systems. They're
working with Twitch.
Different level. It's a totally different level. And that's why I have nothing but respect for those systems, which is everything. The players, the culture around them, whatever's going on. I mean, I don't know if there's like, I don't have to put in like, focus by advanced in all their drinks and making them better at the game, but realistically though, like, the teams are run well. The system, they have systems in place, but like I said, Mayhem is my favorite example, because you can see a style there. There's something to the play, and everything else feels like high spots. Like that was New York's whole problem. Like at the end of the game, like it became like Yaki trying to go for the high spots. You know what I mean? And I was like, it's going to work once or twice, but you can't build the game around that. It's not like, as a viewer, it's so obvious, right? Now, the thing is, when it's a high spot, it's part of the program. It works, right? It's not dramatic, and it works. But you saw that, like, there were so many weird blades from Yaki. That's not even, like, he's better than that. But again, whatever the situation is,
he's trying to make the hero play.
I know, but there were times where like he like pulled the blade and he was just like running around. It's like me. You're just like running around holding the katana, and you just see this. You just see the little arm like this, and like, what's happening? And then like he chops at a couple like taxi cabs and like NPCs, and like, what is this game that we are watching? Right. And then I think it's so funny too when that happens. I don't know if you noticed, but it took so long for like the content, the social team at like Excelsior to actually write that they had lost. They don't even do map score updates anymore. I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, that there are people who are still invested in supporting your team. Like, I get you're having a bad day. Everybody, do you think you're the first team in the world that's ever had to like talk about being awful? I'm a Norwich City fan. Let me tell you about what it's like when your season is over 12 games in. And Plex knows exactly what this is. We knew it was over. We knew relegation was coming, no matter what, after the first 12 games of the last Premiership season. You think that slowed anybody down? I mean, you're Norwich. You barely, like, you started in the league. You finished third, I think, right in the very first season of the Premiership, but that was a long time ago. And I'm like, get over it. Because what I've also noticed as this is happening is that there's like retrenchment and fear. And I don't know what the pressures are internally within the system, but I'm like, you have a lot of people that are still going out to support your team, and you don't even bother writing to these people. Like, you're a shitty manager of content. You're a bad social media manager. You're a bad organization when it comes to like dealing with regular people, because they're still supporting you, but you're not even being likable or even accessible. But again, it's like, what makes that happen? I don't know. I don't know what decisions went into
Titans, and you just lean into meme culture more than anything else. And the fact that your tank is 33rd in the league.
Yeah, it's like their solution was like, let's like post some really insulting things to people because it's funny and it's a meme and That's I mean, at least they're posting something though. Like, that's the thing.
Sure.
At least they're doing, because see, that's all Vancouver has. All they have is breadstick memes, because there's no substance, culture, or value to anything from that organization and culture. And that's okay, because you know who you are. Sure. But it's like, I just like look around and I'm like, you see, like, you can have a passionate and great culture around teams that aren't winning all the time. Lots of teams don't
Shanghai
win
Dragons.
every season. It's called every single team that doesn't win the championship.
It was called the Cubs for 100 years.
Oh my God. Best example, the Cubs.
But have an incredible fan base who pack
Beautiful
Wrigley.
fan base.
Right?
The Islanders, the New York Islanders,
Yeah.
incredible fan base. They tailgate in hockey. They have barbecues. You go to like international soccer, if you're ever looking at like the Copa America, you meet the Mexican, Colombian, Haitian fans. Man, they're like Peruvians. They're just like happy to be there at a spot. I've never seen a fan base more like efficient at getting in and out of a stadium. Everyone's barbecuing. I ate a lot of corn from many, many cultures, in one day. And the thing is, these are all the things. It's like you can do these things. And I think that's what's deep down has been bugging me so much over the past month of gameplay. It's that we know the game's new. We know there's these problems. We know there's situations. Okay, great. And it sucks. And now what?
Yeah.
What are we going to build around? And the one thing Overwatch has really leaned into historically is trying to work on culture and systems and building up stories and talking about communities. And like, you're not even doing that now. And I've seen that before when there's desperation from organizations to claw back revenue. Because somewhere out there, and I've seen this, I've been in those talks where someone's like, well, we have to find ways to make money. And I'm like, this is not hard. I think it's more that you're just really bad at coming up with ideas on how to do this in the space.
Yeah.
But I've heard that. Sure. And I'm like, when you hear that, you're like, okay, well, what are you doing? And then it's like the same 5 things that everybody else is doing in their own way, and none of it works. Like, I know exactly how much those Sennheiser sponsorships pay. I know what Sennheiser's global. I ran into this, and I can't tell you, but it is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
This is a thing. You see, that's why I'm super curious. It's like, Boston's got an NFT group that's doing their sponsorships. I'm like, look, you got to get money to keep the lights on. I get that. I don't hold that against anybody. Same with the Coinbase stuff. I just think New York was very clumsy with how they executed it. But you kind of wonder, like, that's what I'm saying. What's missing? Because there's all these elements that aren't there right now that we had healthier, like, comms and like content and stories when COVID was full blast, and that should tell us something.
Mm-hmm.
That really freaks me out because I like talking to you guys each week, and I hate for the league to go.
Yeah, kidding, right?
About culture. Look at Florida Mayhem. The number of times they've posted on socials like, "Oh, it's somebody's birthday in the team," and they post this cool video. It's things like that,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the little things that make the players relatable. It's like the last one I saw was like it was Gunbar's birthday, and they posted a video of the players with a cake.
But was that cake fitting in the $15 a day meal stipend? And this is what I'm saying. No, but I think
Albert written off as an expense or something like that.
No, I'm teasing. I agree with you. And this is the whole thing. Like, we did more player stories. We talked about. Do you remember when teams were trying to do the thing showing how they're like training and practicing? When was the last time you saw that? Right. And I'm not saying it's that they just don't make the content anymore. I bet you don't want to see it. That's the problem. I bet we don't want to see it because it's more like I can imagine a lot of people getting frustrated. We're like, well, it's great that I have my 5 minutes to practice,
Yeah, no kidding.
Scrim where I got to hold back and I can't try new things. That's going to really lead. The best strategies came out of the ladder. Well, that's how we got Clockwork Vendetta figuring out how to solve goats for the first time in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, you got these systems that came out of contenders, and because you need more brains to solve the problem. And right now we do not have enough brains working on the solution. I think the whole season is going to be, I think it's going to end up being like a bit of a toilet bowl in the end by the end of this season. I think next season is where we're going to actually see teams actually probably make investments.
And that's what I always
think they're willing to do that.
Yeah. That's what I always think about. That this year was always going to be a kerfuffle.
Mm-hmm.
But next year, I think, get a year of Overwatch 2 under your belts. You'll know what mistakes were made, what can be changed.
Quite frankly, I don't know, man, Plex. I think they should have just run this on Overwatch 1. I don't know why they rushed into doing this, because it's just caused problems.
To quote Mr. Krabs, money.
Oh, yeah. So why did you open a second Krusty Krab next to the first Krusty Krab?
Yeah, dude, it's all the push because they needed to get the game out and they had to push. It's advertising for it or whatever.
I don't know. I just think it's funny.
It's a little foolish. I agree, but
I got to run in a second, guys, but there's one thing, and this is actually Plexel. It's to your point, and I won't go into the details because I don't want to take this into any sort of social issues and things like that. But Overwatch 2 and the big news around it has actually been used quite a bit as a media distraction point. It comes up when bad things are facing Blizzard as an organization. It does, right? The beta magically appeared in push mode when Blizzard was taking a lot of flack at BlizzCon, right? People forget that the beta 2, when we were all, Matt, when you were watching it, the announcement of all the details, that was the same day when Blizzard also announced they're like, oh, we finished our internal investigation over all of the sexual harassment and issues around. Oh, and by the way, nothing happened. That they did that the same day.
Yeah.
I was like, and everyone takes it, right? Now, I'm not saying I only ever came into the game because of the culture and what I knew you could build around it if you build around a little bit of hope and a little bit of optimism and some good vibes. And it's just such a shame to see, because the league is such a focus right now and no one's really doing that well in it. What we're getting is those very typical corporate style solutions. And that's not good for anybody. Yeah. It never works. Not in this space, right? You can't take love out of the equation when it comes to any sport.
Yeah.
Anything, it's got to have love. And it's such a shame to see that go. But you see elements of it still, some teams still doing it. And again, I'll keep talking about Florida. I'm not even a Mayhem fan, and I can see it, and you can respect the culture. And that's something I think I would really hope we can start to see a little bit more of. But we're, like I said, some teams are together, some are split, some are here, some are there. You don't really play all the teams. Like, when you think about it, the league is small because the East is on their own and the West is on their own. The league is actually 2 leagues and they're very small. How do you build that up? And I don't think anyone's actually trying to answer that question.
No, 100% no.
At the league, that's the story they need to get to, and not just do it at things like midseason, right? They got to really find a way to do this. You know what's weird? We get match highlights. We get no updates. Where's the package? Where's the show? Where's the weekly? Where's the sports center? We used to have this.
Yeah.
What happened to the standalone watch point pieces where I could watch that and follow along with the story of the league?
Sure. No, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Right? And it's such a bummer. Sorry, I didn't mean to rant so much this week. I was holding this all in from last week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you get making up.
I have to make up for time.
Yeah, it's helping Matt out a little bit. I'll say that much.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
How are you feeling, Matt? By the way, I mean, that sounded pretty awful the last week and a bit.
It sucks. It's been so long since I've been this sick, and it's making me very, very mad. And
I know
I'm just starting to come around on the other side of it, but I'm still not 100%. But hopefully in the next few days. But yeah. So
we're heading to midseason. Yes. We co-streaming? Did we get
No, we are not officially co-streaming. We'll see. Maybe we'll do a couple of unofficial co-streams on it, because we were talking about it. It's all week next week. It is Monday through Friday.
So are we allowed to just do it anyway?
So the difference is, when you're an official co-streamer, you can share the entire broadcast, all that stuff. We can do a watch along where we don't share the screen of the game.
Of our style.
Of that, where you can
oh my God. So we can do alternate. Wait, hold on. It's like the secondary audio programming.
Alternate commentary. Sure.
That's even better.
Yeah. We're I've seen a lot of people do it where they'll share the time code at the top so you don't get in trouble. And we just talk over it. So it's hey, just have the game on in the background and then listen to us.
Matt, let's do that. SAP programming is the best thing. I always used to turn my TV on to Spanish for fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I did it for The Simpsons. And that's how I discovered Homer's name is Homero in Spanish. It's awesome.
But yeah, so anyway, that'll bring up next week. So here's the bracket. It starts next Monday, goes through Friday. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely don't mind. We might even do that on Tuesday, because I normally stream on Tuesday anyway. So we could do some Tuesday games, some Thursday games, stuff like that, and then on Friday we could do the finals and stuff like that.
I mean, Toronto's gonna get their butts kicked. I can't believe we have to. What is it? We have to play Shanghai first.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if we win, we have to play Fuel.
Yeah. Well, no. So Fuel, here's the thing. So I was going to do a full bracket run, but the top seeds still get to choose, but they choose based on the winners of these games.
Okay. Well, I mean, either way, it sucks because it's going to be Fuel or San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Spare a thought for Mayhem. They've got
Yeah.
Gladiators of Dynasty.
Yeah. Whoever it is, they're facing the top 4 teams in the world.
We're both doing poorly this tournament, but you know what though? I think the final will be awesome. No matter what happens, because I don't mind seeing any of these teams get out there. I think it's going to be fascinating to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
real quick, just for my own peace of mind, is there a losers bracket run in this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just want to double check that.
Yep.
Hey, so maybe we'll play each other somehow in some weird magical.
We will. So before we go, and I know you got to go, Richard. So we're going to do we'll do a OverBOTCH pick of these first 4 matches. We'll do a cumulative prediction here. So starting off, the first game of the day of the tournament is London Spitfire, Atlanta Reign, a rematch from earlier in the season that saw the Spitfire upset the Reign, but the Reign have they've had some ups and downs. Richard, I'll start with you. Who do you see moving on?
I could see London taking that one 3-2. I think it'll be really tight though. I just have London feels like they're in a good spot. Hottie's awesome. And I think he can handle a little bit more clutch right now. Right now.
Okay. Plex, what do you say?
I'm going to lean that way as well. I mean, I've seen recently the coaching staff have said they're leaning more to Hawk and improving flexibility, but it's hard to deny that unless you can shut down Reinhardt compositions, you're going to struggle against London Spitfire.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, London is the same as what Chengdu were in 2019, where they went, "Oh, that's a nice meta. We'll just run this instead."
Yeah.
And it made them hard to scrim against and things like that, because nobody else was playing that style.
Yeah.
So based on that, London could get the win there.
Okay. So I'll agree with that. So we'll go with a London win. I think it'll be a closer game though, 3-2 at least. I think that'll be a map 5.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say,
I feel like
the
that.
5 mapper, no doubt.
Yeah, that's not going to be a runaway for anybody. Okay. But on the other side of the fence, Shanghai and
Toronto's
Toronto
going to pull off this magical win. They're going to pull off a 3-2 win somehow.
Anyway, Plex,
yeah.
Back in reality,
Aww.
I mean, I think it's got to be right. I mean, 3-1. You think Toronto?
Yeah, I'd say 3-1.
I think Toronto can get a map. To be honest, I think they can. They're looking pretty good. I think Toronto's getting, like, bias aside, they're actually a perfect middle of the road team right now.
Yeah,
a perfect mid-pack team. So I think they can get a map.
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, there's no denying that Fate's Wrecking Ball is the X factor here. So
Sure,
it's a Shanghai win, but I can see Toronto making him work for it. I mean, Hughes is looking a lot better. I'll say that. Twilight, we all know his quality, so it's going to be an interesting one to say the least.
Yeah. Moving over into a full APAC matchup, they have the Spark and the Fusion, who we didn't even get to talk about. Fusion kind of both having some incredible pop-off moments with, I mean, MN3 was just like clicking heads this weekend.
Grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah. But then Philly, in fact, they took down Seoul.
Yeah, Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah, absolutely. So does Philly ride that wave, or is Spark the more consistently good one who holds it down?
I have more faith in Hangzhou because I've said this before. How you get some teams where they are, what their power level is, and it's consistent.
Yeah.
Whereas you get some teams that are sort of up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't know which one you're going to get. So I've got more faith in Hangzhou, but Fusion, if they have one of these scruff of the neck grab kind of scenarios, they could also get the win. But I'm tentatively going to say Hangzhou Spark in a 3-1.
Richard, what about you?
I was actually thinking the same thing. Philly's still inconsistent. Hangzhou, I think, can tough it out.
Okay.
It's a 3-1.
I can jive with that. And
Mayhem's
then
totally taking this.
Mayhem's and then so we have a wager matchup on the line between Plex and me.
Which I'm probably going to lose.
What are you going to make him say, Plex?
Oh, trust me, I could humiliate that. I could go.
I know.
Sure.
I think this is going to Florida. I think it'll be a 3-2. I think it'll be a punch up.
I think it'll be a close one.
You got to back your horse, Matt.
I do. So here we have to come with a consensus is the thing, because this is an OverBOTCH prediction, so we can't go our own ways. So while in the game, I will be rooting again, for or against whatever we predict here, but we have to come up with a consensus prediction.
Yeah.
I'll be pulling for a Houston win no matter what. You'll be pulling for a Florida win, but on paper, on logic, this is one of the toughest ones because they're both in this very similar spot in the standings. I was saying Houston, they're a little bit more rigid, they're less flexible, but they've been successful in their
what they play well.
They play very well. Yeah, but Florida has the better flexibility, especially in the tank role.
Okay, so I'm actually I'm gonna say Mayhem. I think it's gonna be 3-2 Mayhem. Purely because of that flexibility. And I'm not saying that Houston are weaker, but it's a case of with Piggy in, you can tell they look a lot weaker. Whereas Mayhem, they can stick essentially with the same 5.
Yeah.
And not drop their power level.
I agree with that.
Richard,
I agree.
Over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I'd say 3-2 Mayhem.
Yeah.
It's tough because it's weird because I worry about the inflexibility of the Dante Doomfist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they put in Piggy, who's their traditional tank, he's not been looking good lately. No. And so it's like,
your substitute, your backup plan isn't strong
holding
enough.
Up. And then your main plan is good, but it's very inflexible.
It's like very all in, yeah.
So it's like, if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, you're doomed.
Yeah.
So I could see that. I'll be rooting for Houston all the way. But
though? Secret Mayhem fan.
I'll always be a Mayhem fan as well. But ladies and gentlemen, we will back for the podcast next week will be right after these games take place.
And then we'll go into it proper. Yep.
And then we can start making some more predictions. We'll hopefully know who these top seeded teams have selected, and we can start filling that bracket out. But we will find out all of that and more next week. And so until then, on behalf of the saddest little bear in New York. That's what saddest little bear in New York. The saddest little bear in New York. And on behalf of Plexomatic, I am the Drama King. Thank you, everybody, once again for hanging out with us on the live show. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, etc., wherever you find us. Leave a comment. We'd like to hear from you guys. Let us know who you think is going to take it all the way in the mid-season madness. But until then, we will see you next week.
Bye.